Let me tell you something. I am so sick and tired of the dating scene within the United States of America. This is why I don't date women that live in the USA. Doesn't matter if they're a citizen, a work visa, a student visa, doesn't matter. If you live in the United States of America, I'm not interested. It's suffocating, it's tiresome, it's exhausting, especially when you're trying to build something or rebrand something. Okay. Let me kind of dive into this because this has not, we talked about the rudeness, we've talked about other things on this channel, but let's talk about something that's inward. Okay. So I went broke about 2 years ago. Okay. I tried to build a dream. I got to the dream, and then the economy took a crap at the end of 2022 into the beginning of 2023. And unfortunately, the dream died. But out of the dream and out of the failed dream, the failed business, the failed adventure, the failed venture, I should say, came wisdom, where I found a niche of what I can do. And I've evolved it over 2 years to where now I've actually got one of those. And probably by spring of 2026, I'll have another one. So, everybody makes things out to be easy online. You go on social media, I can get you rich within 6 months. I can get you rich within 90 days. That's not how the whole thing works. So I've had to restructure, rebrand, and when I finally started climbing the mountain, I'm like, all right, I'm lonely. I'd like to meet someone. I'd like to have someone by my side as I climb up the mountain. And boy, did I find out the hard way, no matter if they're from farm country, Tennessee, a country cowgirl from Oklahoma, girl from the projects of LA, or a woman from moved here from the Philippines to go to school. If they live here in the United States of America, they all have the same bad habits. And I don't blame them. I blame the manufacturers of the phone and the social media apps. Even though social media apps is how I make money, it has turned our society that lives in the good old USA into a bunch of idiots. And that's not just women, it's men too. Because now we're turning to a red pill community for answers from a bunch of guys who were mama's boys and they had their little tushies rubbed with white powder, and they were coddled. And why can't I find a woman that just coddles me? I don't want that. I had a very successful relationship with the mother of my children. Unfortunately, we grew apart. 17 years, it grew apart. It didn't end in tragedy. It didn't end in nastiness and infighting and yelling and screaming at each other. It didn't end that way. I mean, there was some of that involved because I was trying to hang on too long when in reality I should just let her kind of go off and do her thing. My bad. And yes, literally, that's not sarcasm, my bad. But one of the realities that we all got to look at is we all want to find somebody. And I don't want the people waiting at the finish line. I want somebody that was going to build, I didn't want somebody to go and be living in a car, traveling California, doing filming and doing campground stuff and doing all that stuff. That I didn't want somebody with me during that. I didn't, because nobody needed to be with me on that. Okay. That was a journey. That was a walkabout. That was kind of me refacing, reshaping, and redoing what I needed to do to kind of become a better content creator. Okay. You know, I actually, if you want to go see, I did a lot of it on this channel, live streamed it a couple years ago. But wow, just wow. when you finally are climbing the mountain, me, I, want, why can't? I'm like, girl, you grew up on a farm. How are you so rude and obnoxious? You came from nothing. You went to university, came from nothing, have a good career, have a great lifestyle. How are you so rude and nasty? The best one is you come from a country that supposedly embraces American Western culture and Western men and all this stuff. You come over here to be a student. You start a great career in the healthcare industry, and you act like everybody else now. WTF, man? So I've been doing some homework, and it looks like the first country I really want to look at is actually Nigeria. The first continent that I want to look at is Africa. Egypt, South Africa, Madagascar, Congo. I want to look at that continent first because I've read some really good things about you being able to find a lot of women that not only have a more traditional look on things, but also have a good head on their shoulders. And what I mean by that is I've been reading in blogs and things about, especially women in Nigeria, that they go to university in England, they go to university in Europe, and they speak multiple languages and very well educated without the rude, obnoxious behavior, without the rude, nasty behavior of women that live in America. So I'm going to start there and expand my search because I think that's a good starting point. Everybody starts in Latin America, Hispanic America, South America, everything else. I was thinking Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, but I'm like, you know what? Let's think outside the box here for a second. I already speak Spanish. I have some skill in Portuguese. I can just fall back on that. A lot of women that live in Africa speak English. A lot of women in South America don't. So even though I speak Spanish, there are different dialects of Spanish depending on what country you go to in Central and South America. And even Mexico has a different dialect than Cuba. And Cuba has a different dialect than Spain. It's all different dialects, different ways of speaking. Even though a lot of the simpler words are easy to follow, it's a whole different world, whole different cultural in the way they speak. And of course, Brazil speaks a form of Brazilian Portuguese. The Brazilian Portuguese and Portugal are not completely identical. There's some differences, right? So I'm really going to look at that and see where that kind of takes me and where it goes. And I'm excited to see how that goes. I'm going to start pursuing that probably around the springtime. But until then, it's like, Jesus Christ, man. I mean, this is just, what a battle. What a real battle.